Hey y'all, Olivia here. Before we start the show, I wanted to give a quick trigger warning. This episode, my very special guest and I use the Q word a lot. Now, the Q word has been heavily debated within the LGBTQIA+ community. Some people view it as a slur against the community, while others use it as an identity for themselves, or of the community itself. My very special guest and I both use the Q word to identify ourselves, as a way to reclaim it back from the people who have used it against us in the past. But I still understand people may be triggered by the word, and I wanted to give y'all a heads up. If need be, I can do a future edit where I bleep out the word, but for now, the Q word is still in there. Also, another warning, but not of the trigger variety. My very special guest gets a bit spoilery in this one, but I feel like the subject matter, being based in the continuity of comic books and the many media it takes, spoilers are bound to happen. I did my best to cut what I could, but in the long run, I think if you still want to consume the piece of media, a small bit of spoilers isn't going to ruin it for you. So with all that being said, enjoy the show! Welcome back, everyone, to FandotDomdotcom, to a brand new episode. I have a very special guest with me. Special guest, how about you introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Chris Brown. Yes, that's legal. I'll show you my ID. I know, I say that every time. You need to retire that joke.
No, I use that joke every time I talk about you.
Work!
Yeah, I'm like, Chris Brown? Yes, that's his legal name.
Yeah, but that is my legal name. My name is Chris Brown. On Instagram, that's at ChrisBrownWho2398. I'm a senior performance and production major at Texas State University. I do have Twitter, but you have to search for it. You have to earn it.
Yeah, I gotta earn my Twitter.
But no, do follow my Instagram. I will be launching my professional Instagram my professional website from that account. So,
are you an Instagram model? Are you Instagram comedian? Are you both?
You'll have to wait for the launch to find out.
Oh my god!
And by launch, it's gonna be a post where I tag myself and be like, "Go follow this account."
See, I don't have an Instagram. I should, like, everyone I know.
Instagram is fun. Instagram is like the tamest one.
Really?
Instagram is the one where you don't have any like hateful comments or like hateful posts. It's like where you go to see your friends thriving and thirst traps.
See, I doubt that because I know every like website, every social media has like some fucking downside to it. Yeah, I just never, because I don't take a lot
Well, Instagram breeds an incredibly harmful body image, but that's about it.
Yeah, because like I don't take a lot of pictures of, well, not really myself, but like in general, I don't really take a lot of pictures.
Yeah.
But, I got a TikTok, a Tumblr, don't look it up. Well, look up the Tumblr for this show, but not like my personal Tumblr. Good fucking luck finding that one.
Did you kill it? Did you bury it?
No, it's just no one is allowed to see it except for like one person, Maddie, who was on the first episode. She talked about Undertale, so she's seen me at my worst, so she gets to see my Tumblr.
Work, which is you at your worst.
Which is me at my worst.
Right,
Okay, wow, we got a little separated there, but yeah, I know Chris Brown because we are both theater performance and production majors.
Right.
We met our freshman year at Texas State.
We did.
Where we pledged
Alpha Psi Omega.
Alpha Psi Omega. Jalen was on the the second episode.
That's my god little.
Yeah, so we both pledged Alpha class. I mean, that's essentially how we met.
And then we got close because we both worked new student orientation on the same staff for 2 summers in a row.
Texas staff.
Yes.
I love Evan. Yeah, Chris is just a wonderful person. I love her.
Shut the fuck up.
She's so funny.
You just reminded me of something. My pronouns, I use he, him, his, and she, her, hers. So.
Yeah, that's always good. We'll always love that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What are your pronouns?
I use they, them, she, her.
Work.
Yeah, not a lot of people use the they, them, so I'm fine. I'm totally fine with she, her. But when someone does use they, them, I'm like,
it's like when I'm driving through the drive-thru and I'm like, they're like, is there anything else I can get you, ma'am? I'm like,
yes, that's me.
I'm like,
I'm ma'am. But yeah, when someone's like that to me and they're like, how, Olivia's over there, they're working on something, I'm like, I'm they. That's me. I'm they. It's so dumb.
No, it's not dumb.
Chris, you're wonderful. I love you. I'm glad I have you on the show.
I love you too, bitch.
Oh, God. So, let's actually get into the episode.
Right,
this has been my longest intro so far.
You are welcome.
So, what are we talking about today?
I was torn. I didn't know whether or not I wanted to talk about Young Justice or Kill la Kill. which is an excellent anime. I'm going to go ahead and recommend that because that's not the one I'm talking about. I probably am not super qualified to talk about it. But, like, if you choose to watch Kill la Kill, just know that there is some...
tits.
Right, there's a lot of, like, unwarranted sexuality that the show, tries to justify
I hate...
in saying that, like, you have to merge with your clothing. I was like, yeah, that doesn't mean your clothing has to, like, cut off circulation to your vulva. Like, come on.
I hate that in anime where they try to justify it, like, because I'm into My Hero Academia, and there's one character, Momo, who her quirk, her power is that she can produce any object that's not like living out of her, and she uses it through her her body fat, and she's 15 years old, canonically 15 years old, and just has like huge tits, and her hero costume is basically her in like this tiny little outfit and just like just enough to cover her nipples essentially, and sometimes she'll open it to expose more skin to like produce an item out of her body.
Brilliant.
Does she need to be drawn like that? No, she doesn't. Is she highly sexualized? Yes, she is. Is there that one creepy character, Mineta, who everyone hates, sexualize her too? Yes, and I hate it.
There's a creepy character in Kill la Kill.
That's an anime stereotype.
Oh, no.
And I hate it so fucking much.
But what we really want to talk about today is Young Justice, which I love and have loved for years.
So, Young Justice. What I know about it is more than the average bear. I think, I watched Teen Titans growing up, and I absolutely loved that series.
Right.
So when I saw Young Justice, I'm like, hell yeah, Teen Titans 2, but they're like different art style, cool. And so I watched the first episode, and I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna watch this. I'm gonna watch this show. And then I got out of it for like after it first came out, and I got busy or I some bullshit. And
or there was a 5-year gap between when they made the show.
I remember bits and pieces of it, but I definitely I watched it. I forget things.
Right.
That happened in the show. Yeah, so I watched...
Season 2 was the big 5-year gap.
Yeah, so I watched Season 2, and I remember bits and pieces of that, and then we binged watched Season 3 together during the summer when it came out.
Right.
I'm gonna sound like a fake fan, but like when we were watching it, you would point out a hero like, oh, that's what's their face? I'm like, who's that? I don't know who that is.
Right.
So yeah, I would be like, I don't know, because what I know about like the DC, I know from the Batman animated series,
which is also good.
Oh god, it's so good.
Especially the new one, the newer version in '97.
No, I like the Art Deco
I
one.
know you talk about how you like the Art Deco one all the time, but the newer animation style is better, and I only say that because I grew up on Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman, which is one of the best DC animated movies of all time, and I'll go to my grave believing that.
The Mask of the Phantasm?
Yeah, that was good. It was also the Art Deco style, so of course you would love that one.
Art Deco. But yeah, I think that movie I really like because it delves into Bruce Wayne's character. Like, it's pre-Batman, and he's actually like going through grief, and like it shows him evolving, to become Batman, and it's so great and twisty, and I love it. Mark Hamill, obviously, as the Joker, the best Joker.
Yes. Especially in like the Batman Beyond movie or the Batman Beyond Return of the Joker movie, that whole flashback scene.
Oh fuck yeah!
I was just
yeah.
That one just took me away.
So growing up, I watched Batman the animated series, Batman the new animated series, some of the Superman series, Justice League Unlimited.
Oh, both excellent shows.
And then Static Shock. I fucking love Static Shock. I
haven't watched a lot of Static Shock, but I have
it's so fun.
It.
Whoop whoop.
Superheroes.
Yes.
Static Shock.
I love it so much. It's so funny too. Oh, Teen Titans. Obviously, I watched Teen Titans.
That was good.
And some other shows that I'm sure that I'm forgetting. But I wouldn't consider myself like a big DC fan.
Oh, I would.
Just because like I haven't read much of the comic books. Because, growing up, I'd rather watch TV because of my dyslexia. Because when I read, I was like, I'm a dumbass.
Right. Well, I haven't read a lot of the comics either, but I also have like gotten, when I was like interested in a character, I would go like read articles about the character. I understand a lot of the backstories and stuff, and like can pick characters out because of what's going on, because of the backstory knowledge I have on a lot of the not super important characters that were just interesting to me.
Yeah, so, and I watched Young Justice, but I feel like I didn't pay a lot of attention to it. And I can pick out bits and pieces of characters and storylines. Again, I wouldn't consider myself like a huge DC fan.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I'm a fake nerd, fake gamer girl, So tell me about what you know of Young Justice, like beyond the TV show or any, like the comic books or the show itself.
Okay, I'm gonna explain short synopsis of like Young Justice. Basically what it is, it follows this team of superheroes, which is basically the Justice League's covert ops unit, made up of their former proteges.
Don't call us sidekicks.
I know, it's like the best.
I remember they played that up a lot season 1.
Yeah, because it was kind of like they're finding their like themselves, getting into their own. But it follows them as they go through like their covert ops missions, but it also follows their lives as far as like how they deal with drama within the team. I know in a lot of season 3 it's about dealing with their identities. Identity is a big theme in season 3. Goes into their relationships, in how the life is what they call it, the superhero life, affects them. It's really, really cool, and especially season 2 I think is very well written.
I do remember liking season 2 more than season 3.
But season 3 got excellent reviews.
Did it?
I read an article about that and I was surprised. I said the critics like gave it like really good reviews.
Because you remember when we were watching it?
Well, because the writing was so...
The writing was not...
Oh, it was so like...
Yeah.
It was almost cheesy at some points, and I was like...
I do like a little cheese, but I feel like...
But it was like every episode, a lot of the episode, and certain characters, every time they opened their mouth, I wanted to hit them.
You can say Black Lightning.
Like Geoforce and Black Lightning.
Okay. Yeah.
And sometimes Halo. I just...
In season 3, they do introduce new characters that aren't really a part of like the regular Justice League lineup.
So the seasons 1 and 2, a lot of them are based off. Season 1 especially they're based off of characters from the Young Justice comic series. Young Justice and Teen Titans aren't the same team, by the way. There's 2 different comic continuities, but they focus on like the original members of the Young Justice, and then they expand it to include like new members of Young Justice, characters that like would work with other characters. They pull some characters from Teen Titans, although they haven't. I'm ready. I want them to introduce Starfire and Raven. Hopefully they can do something cool like that in season 4.
When I watched Teen Titans, this is before I knew that I was queer, but like I loved Starfire. I wanted to be Starfire, but then as I got older I was like, I like Raven,
right? And
then I was watching this, I'm like, I hope this doesn't awake anything in me, and it did.
No, I remember when I was younger, Raven. I really enjoyed Starfire and Robin's relationship, and then I got older and I was like, oh, it's because I want to be Starfire. That's why.
Isn't that always it?
But side note, I think DC Comics needs to hurry up and make Tim Drake canonically queer, because they really did us dirty when they, like, as clear as it can be without saying it, that Tim Drake and Superboy were not just friends.
When was this? Is this a thing? Is this in Young Justice or is it in a comic?
I think I can't remember if it's Young Justice or Teen Titans. But I know there's the continuity when Superboy dies, and it throws like Tim Drake into a crazy deep depression, and then
his bro just died, man.
He has this whole emotion.
His homie died. That's not gay.
No, but it's like it is. It's like the way the interactions between Superboy and Tim Drake. There are scenes when Connor is the only person that can make Tim Drake open up about certain things, especially after Bruce Wayne goes missing, and then Superboy dies, gets brought back to life.
Because it's comics.
Literally Tim Drake crying when he comes back. It's a whole thing. And then they retconned the universe, as they do regularly.
Because comics.
And then they made them kind of like angsty adversaries. Like they were kind of like, oh, I'll work on the same team as him, but not because I want to, kind of thing, And
that's just okay. So the first one
made me mad.
The first one you described was essentially friends to lovers, and then the second one you described, the angsty shit, as essentially enemies to frenemies to friends to lovers. which is always fun.
Well, they need to hurry the fuck up.
So let's get back onto Young Justice, like
right.
the show, because we kind of dwelled into something else. We'll talk about queerness later if we have time.
We were talking. Okay, I gave you a synopsis. I'm talking about how I got into it.
Yeah.
I too grew up watching Teen Titans, and I was like, this is gonna be cool. This is interesting, and I liked Young Justice a lot more because the characters were a lot more interesting. Not more interesting, just like the characters they chose. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed more. One, because I didn't know a lot about Aqualad, especially the Calderon version of Aqualad. Mm-hmm. I wasn't super familiar with the Kid Flash. I had only known Wally West in the animated universe as his version of the Flash in the Justice League series. Mm-hmm. And then Miss Martian was super interesting to me because I love telepathic characters and I love sorcerers. Those are my two favorite types of characters, which is why Queen Bee and Clarion are two of my favorite characters in the whole show.
So who's Queen Bee and who's Clarion?
Queen Bee and Clarion are both members of the Light, which are basically the big group of bad guys. It's the hidden organization made up of, it's in season 1 and 2 it's 7. Well, yeah, it's usually 7 people that orchestrate criminal activity around the world. Clarion is a Lord of Chaos. He's basically an immortal sorcerer who is tethered to the mortal realm by his cat Tico. I love Tico. And he's basically a child, but he acts like a child, but he's an immortal child that's incredibly powerful, easily.
He's a brat.
Right.
He's a brat with powers.
He's a brat, but he's easily one of the most powerful characters in the show.
That's never good. That's never good.
And I really enjoyed what they did with him because they took his power and amped it the fuck up in Young Justice, because every other version he was in was boring Puritan boy who I just want my staff. Tickle, fight Batman, and he was very easily overcome.
Yeah, I feel in past, I believe you've mentioned before, Tickle was a bigger thing. Tickle had more power than he did.
Tickle, I don't think Tickle's gotten more or less powerful. I don't know, because in the animated versions that I saw, Tickle was very much like a minion. Mm-hmm. But a minion that could turn into this super hot cat demon lady that would beat the shit out of Batman. But then
he's into it.
In Young Justice, Clarion and Tickle both have so much more interesting characters, because even though Tickle's a cat, we see them obviously have a relationship because Tickle is the familiar to the Lord. They obviously know each other very well. And it's interesting that Tickle's not just a Tickle, go hit, and then Tickle turns into this giant cat monster.
So it's not a Pokemon. They're equals.
Right.
They're equals, essentially.
They are equals because they both need the other one. Mm-hmm. Especially Clarion needs Tickle, because Clarion cannot exist in the mortal plane without Tickle. Mm-hmm. That's his tether. Wow, Dr. Fate's is... Nabu's is the Helmet of Fate.
Now who's that?
Nabu is... we find out in season 3 he's one of the first sons of Vandal Savage, who is one of the members of the Light. Immortal, conqueror, kind of an icon. Long game is trying to kill Darkseid.
The thing is about comics, and we're gonna do this quite a bit, is there are so many characters. I love characters personally.
Me too.
I love creating characters. I love a good character with a nice arc who gets some development. Mwah, chef kiss. But I will be having to be who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Not only for my sake, but probably also for the audience. Just because comics themselves are so there's so many different universes, so many different versions of a character,
right?
So many here, then they're dead, brought back to life, was rebirthed as their mother or something, some bullshit like that. Comics.
Right. Yeah.
Comics. So getting back to Young Justice, and you were saying you got into it before we were talking about Tinkle and Tinkle.
Tinkle. I loved Teen Titans, but I've never been a big Cyborg fan.
Really?
I'm robots are not I don't like robots.
Well,
I've never watched the Transformers.
He's not a robot.
I know, but just I'm gonna use my bionic arm. I've never that's never been my thing, and I've never really enjoyed that very much.
You don't like big robots?
No.
I thought chicks liked dig giant robots.
Yeah, no, it's not my thing.
Oh. Okay.
So
you don't like...
I've never been a Cyborg fan, and I've never been a Beast Boy fan, because Beast Boy just annoys the shit out of me.
I really liked Beast Boy when I was a kid because I thought it was funny.
I also really I enjoy more like my favorite. I enjoy the Green Lantern Corps and like their idea. So like I enjoy heroes and villains that can manipulate light, like I've already said, telepathy, magic, and I also love a good warrior queen. So like Wonder Woman, or like I like people that either do like hand-to-hand combat, like the sneaking around Batman Robin stuff, or like the warrior queen Wonder Woman stuff, or people that have insane amounts of power, just like crazy insane. Like Green Lantern is incredibly powerful. Especially the Hal Jordan version of Green Lantern, incredibly powerful. Hal Jordan's not a fantastic person in a lot of the continuity.
That's the pilot one, right?
Right, yeah, he's the pilot. He was the first one.
See, I grew up on...
He was the one that was inhabited by the Parallax for a little bit, which is like the living embodiment of fear, which is the opposite of willpower, which is the Green Lantern. It's a whole thing.
What, I'm forgetting the character's name. The Green Lantern from the...
John Stewart.
John Stewart.
John Stewart is cool.
Yeah,
He was like the former Marine one. Yeah,
yeah, because it's funny because, like, you know, watching Justice League as a kid and you see this character and, you know, he's great. He's funny. He's a great character with all the rest of them. And then, and you know, it's your first time seeing this character as a Green Lantern character. And then they make the... my next interaction with Green Lantern was with the movie that they made with Ryan Reynolds.
Haven't seen it.
And I was like, that's not the fucking Green Lantern. Who the fuck is this guy?
Right.
Who's this white motherfucker?
Right.
And then they also made a TV show out of that, like a 3D...
I just watched the TV show days ago.
I watched a few episodes and I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it.
Like, I'm so used to animated series being like the 1990s New Adventures of Batman and Robin, Superman animated series style animation. So I just had to get myself back into like the I'm watching Star Wars: The Clone Wars animation style mindset.
It is very. I don't know. It's
which I loved.
I don't think it's. Is it the same company?
They were both done by Cartoon Network, so they probably were. I mean, the newer. I don't know.
The animation styles of Star Wars: Clone Wars, the animated series, and the Green Lantern series. Does kind of look alike, so they're
very similar.
They're very similar, but
I watched it and I actually thought it was fairly good. I thought it was.
The episodes that I saw were pretty entertaining.
We met every major player from like all the Lantern Corps except the Indigo Tribe. The Indigo Tribe is so iconic.
What's the Indigo Tribe?
The Indigo Tribe is like the elusive. Like Indigo Lantern Corps, you could call it.
Because like there are like different colors of the Lantern Corps.
There are 7
that represent different things.
Right, 7 pieces of the emotional spectrum. I'm sorry. Okay.
I know because it's a lot.
So I guess this is gonna be like I'm passionate about DC Comics.
Yeah.
With a focus on Young Justice.
Yeah, let's say that. Hi, my major is DC Comics with a focus in Young Justice.
Okay. Season 1 was cool. I enjoyed Season 1 because we got to see them come into their own characters. And a big plot point of Season 1, which I really enjoyed, was like a who's the mole kind of thing. Because like they figured out fairly early on that someone was giving intelligence to the light. And so they spent the entire series trying to figure out who it was. And
no spoilers.
Right. Well, and like it's not something... I mean, I may have seen it coming if I'd watched it for the first time like at my age, 21. But when I was like 15 watching the show for the first time, I was like, what? I never would have guessed. And it's super, super cool. They did an excellent job going from Season 1 to Season 2. They put a whole 5-year gap.
That was surprising when I watched the first episode of Season 2. I'm like, we getting what?
I was like, wait.
McGann, where's your hair?
I love that. Bald McGann is so great. But she wasn't bald in Season 2.
No, she had shorter hair. Yeah, that was cute.
But Bald McGann in Season 3
But Bald McGann is great, and I love it.
It's iconic.
Yeah. It's just good.
Right.
Good job, McGann.
I think they did a good job of bridging the gap between Season 1 and Season 2. And they did show a little, like some scenes where they called it the Grotto, which is basically like the graveyard for the fallen heroes. And we saw like some characters that we either know about because we're just like familiar with the way comics go, and like, oh yep, this character definitely dies in every version, but Loki gets brought back to life. I will talk about that in a second. I'm talking about Jason Todd.
It's funny that because for a minute you said Loki as in the the version of saying like sort of, but when you said Loki, I immediately thought of the trickster god in the Marvel universe.
Well, this is DC Comics, so
which is also funny because like you said they low-key get back to life, and like yeah, Loki also gets back to life all the time. But so we're talking about the characters season 1, season 2. So who are we focusing on in Young Justice? Like the main group in season 1.
The main group in season 1: Dick Grayson, Robin; Wally West, Kid Flash; Calderon, Aqualad; Artemis Croc, who I think she was created for the show. I don't think she had if she wasn't created for the show, she definitely didn't have a big comic presence before. But in this universe, she is the daughter of the Huntress, who is like a retired supervillain in this universe because she went to prison and like had a whole change of heart and things. And her father is the Sportsmaster, who is notorious in season 1 and part of season 2. He works as the Light's enforcer. Miss Martian McGann, who is one of in this continuity, 400 or 500 nieces and nephews of Jean Jones, because Mars is not devoid of people. The Martians are not extinct in this continuity. And we figure that out because of the Ars who comes in season 2, and then the whole like Peacecom satellite that happens in season 2, episode 7, that kind of thing.
I'm gonna nod my head.
It's either episode 7 or episode 8.
I'm gonna nod my head and agree with you and pretend like I know what you're talking about.
Right, but there's like, and then McGann's brother comes into play in season
3.
Yeah, so there's like a bunch of Martians in this show, and they're not extinct.
So she is the niece of Martian Manhunter.
Right. The last major character that gets focused on like through the continuity is Connor Kent, Superboy, who was created by Project Cadmus. That's not a spoiler because we figured that out in episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then they kind of like near the end of season 1, like off and on, like a major supporting character that we see a lot is Red Arrow, speedy Roy Harper. Roy Harper gets an interesting storyline that I appreciate.
So what are these characters? What are they dealing with in season 1, essentially?
Secrets. Season 1 is a lot of them about keeping secrets from each other. Not only are they trying to like get to know each other, come into their own, like be on the team together, especially toward the later half, Artemis, Superboy, Miss Martian, they all are like struggle with keeping secrets that they think are gonna like destroy their friendships and their trust in their team. So who knows how that goes?
We do.
I do.
But we're not telling.
Right, because no spoilers.
So who is your favorite character, let's say, throughout the seasons without, many spoilers? Throughout the seasons?
Kind of changes. Sorry. Zatanna becomes important in season 1 as well, like halfway through season 1.
And who is she?
She is canonically, in like most DC continuities, one of the most powerful sorcerers in the universe.
She's cute too. I like her.
She's incredibly powerful, and she's not crazy over-sexualized in Young Justice, which is good because she usually is over-sexualized. It's like in the comics.
She's cute in the show. I like her.
She's so fun.
She's got magic powers and she's cute.
Right?
I'm gay.
She's one of my favorite characters because she's a sorcerer. Ms. Martian would be one of my favorite characters if she wasn't so whiny. Because Ms. Martian's really whiny. Which is fine. Like, it fits with her character. It's good. She's still a sweet character that you root for.
And we do see some character development.
Right.
For her. It goes to an odd place. But it's interesting.
It is good when you get to see her pop off. I enjoy watching her pop off. I, of course, enjoyed Dick Grayson.
Because you love that dick.
But also, I've always enjoyed Dick Grayson as a character. And they don't... Usually in comic storylines, Dick Grayson is fairly cocky.
Dick is cocky.
But they
jokes.
Yes. I think they do a good job of like all of his cockiness is earned in the show, and it's not like overtly like, I'm better than all of you, like fuck off, Mm-hmm. It's channeled more into like an independence, like he knows what he's doing, like very much like a small Batman with a sense of humor.
Yeah.
But we do see him grow away from that and like grow into a really good team player in the later seasons, which is really cool. Tim Drake gets introduced in season 2. I really want them to see them do more with Tim Drake. Also, I'm kind of upset. I heard a rumor that they were going to make Blue Beetle and Bart Allen, who is Impulse, and then Kid Flash, gay for each other.
Now, okay, you just mentioned two characters. Who the fuck are they?
He's the third Blue Beetle of this planet. He succeeded Ted Cord, who was killed trying to experiment because he was trying to experiment on the scarab, which attached to Jaime's spine and gives him his powers. The scarab is was created by the Reach. The Reach, which is a race of people who send these scarabs. They find one person from their planet, take over their bodies, basically become like drones of the Reach, and help take over planets.
But the Blue Beetle.
Yes, his scarab had malfunctioned a long time ago.
And who is attached to the Blue Beetle? You mentioned his name, but we didn't get the whole thing.
Jaime Reyes is the character's name. Mm-hmm. That scarab malfunctioned, and so he like forms a relationship with his scarab, because the scarab doesn't try and control his mind and doesn't know it's connected to the Reach and isn't connected to the Reach. And so there's the whole thing with that in season 2.
And the other person you mentioned, Impulse, who's that?
Impulse is Barry Allen's grandson from the future, Bart Allen.
God, fuck comics.
Honestly? In this continuity, in some continuities, he's his grandson who lived in the 31st century, and there's a whole Speed Force thing with that.
I don't think the timeline adds. Fuck it, comics. Who cares?
Well, there's the whole Speed Force thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Fuck timelines.
They very much simplified it in Young Justice, which I appreciate. In a world where Jaime Reyes was spoilers. In a world where bad shit happened, Bart Allen came back and was like, I know how I'm gonna fix it by making sure something doesn't happen. And he may or may not do that. I'm not sure. But he ends up staying in the past because he knew it was a one-way ticket to the past. He has this line that he says to his friend, do you think this is a future worth returning to? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's cool. That's fun. I enjoy that. I heard someone said that there was a Reddit rumor that they were going to be gay together. I'm really upset that didn't happen in season 3.
That's a rumor. You know, you can't...
But they made heavy implications in season 3 that he was going to be a homosexual. And I'd like to... Okay, I'm gonna jump to season 3. So season 3... They introduced a lot of really, really cool characters, like Orphan, who is Cassandra Cain, who ends up taking up the mantle of Batgirl at some point. Spoiler, Stephanie Brown. She served as the 4th Robin in like the original canon. After Tim Drake became the Red Robin, she stepped into Robin, and Batman was like, no, what are you doing? She almost got killed by the Black Mask, and he was like, you're fucking fired. And so then she became
no girls allowed.
Well, Barbara Gordon.
One girl allowed.
And he works with Kate Kane at some point. Kate Kane is Batwoman. She's an iconic lesbian.
One girl and
two
girls only. One of them's got to be a lesbian.
Right. She only dates lesbian cops. I.e.
That's such a...
Her major relationships in the DC comic... That's a joke, by the way. Her major relationships in DC Comics canon have been Maggie Sawyer, Metropolis police officer, and Renee Montoya, who was a Gotham City police detective, and then took over as the Second Question.
I'm sorry. This girl has a type, and
she really does. It's like me with straight men.
Stop.
I know. Stop. I wish I
as long as
I am proof positive that you don't get to pick who you're attracted to.
As long as you don't go for them like a certain beauty guru on YouTube, who shall remain anonymous.
No, the problem with what he was doing.
We cannot get into this. We're talking about comic books.
Okay.
So, yes, lesbians. We have so many fucking characters because comic books have so many fucking characters. Right. And this show is, and there's so many timelines and this and that and what not. So we're just going to focus on like the main people in season 1, 2, and 3-ish.
Right. Well, season 3, different people become main people.
Yeah, exactly.
So in season 3, they introduce, it's called Young Justice Outsiders. And so what they do is they take a lot of characters from the Outsiders group. Like in the comics continuity, they were in the Outsiders, like Geoforce, Halo. Those characters in the comic books came from the Outsiders group. Black Lightning, Katana, Metamorpho. They all make appearances in Young Justice because they can't call it Young Justice Outsiders and like not include the Outsiders. Beast Boy's character pisses me off in season 3, but I just don't like Beast Boy. Actually, I liked Beast Boy in season 2.
Because he was a fun, dumb little kid.
When he was like the innocent little kid.
He was a fun little kid. He's in season 1. That's all you need to know. But he's fun.
He's fun.
And then he gets serious, but don't worry about it.
Serious and boring. But there are other cool characters. What the show did, at the end of season 2, they left us a cliffhanger with a conflict with Apocalypse, which is the home of Darkseid and his section of the New Gods, who are among the most powerful beings in the universe. Darkseid being like the Thanos of DC Comics, only Thanos sucks, was created after Darkseid and is definitely a knockoff of Darkseid.
There's a lot of that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, DC created this character first, and then Marvel...
Well, Marvel, it's the same thing back and forth with DC.
Yes, back and forth.
Right. But most of them, the best characters at least, except for Aquaman, were DC first and then Marvel copied them. Aquaman came after Prince Namor from Marvel. Anyway, season 3, they delve kind of into the Apocalypse conflict. We get to see a lot more than we have in the past of a character named Granny Goodness, who is basically one of Darkseid's most trusted New Gods. She's an icon. She's in charge of the Female Furies, which we saw a surprisingly like small amount of.
Yeah, we didn't see much of them.
I hope we get to see more of them, and we get to see more of them in season 4, which is happening, by the way, because the ratings were fantastic.
Okay, so we are getting a season 4.
Right.
Shit, where are they gonna go with that after what happened? We're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into that because that's spoilery.
It was really cool. They also introduced this character named Halo, who...
Her whole thing is very confusing.
Her whole thing is weird, and I don't know if I can say it without spoilers.
I want it.
I'm just gonna say it. And if there's too many spoilers, you can cut it out. She is...
Please go on. Please.
She's the body of a Muslim woman, or a Muslim young girl, inhabited by the spirit of the life of Mother Box. And so she like has Mother Box powers and some of Mother Box's memories that she gets into, but then she's also like has some of the memories of the corpse, but like is an entirely new person with a new personality. And she goes through this whole like, I like wearing the hijab because it makes like it feels right, but I'm not a Muslim person. And it's like, go for it. That's spectacular. And then she comes out as genderqueer. Like one of the characters is like, do you want to be my girlfriend? She's like, here's the thing. I know I'm like a living Mother Box, but that's just because like that's the closest Earth word for it. I'm not actually a boy or a girl. And he's like, that's okay with me, in the most ugly way possible because he's an annoying character and I hate him so much.
This is Geoforce.
Yeah.
Whatever the Markov.
Brion Markov.
Brion, that's it. Fuck him.
Who in this continuity is the older brother of Terra, who we all know from Teen Titans has the Earth powers and has the thing with Deathstroke. Which they don't make sexual in this show. Thank goodness.
Fucking God.
Because they did in the Judas Contract and it was just weird. It added another level to it. It made it more intense and more mature, which I appreciated. But I was also like, thank you. Thank you for not making Terra want to fuck Deathstroke. Because that was irritating.
Disgusting.
It was really gross. And it just made me feel uncomfortable. But they do cool things with Terra. They take the Terra conflict that we've seen in the Teen Titans, that we've seen in the Judas Contract, and they take it like in a different direction, which I appreciate. So it's not as predictable. But yeah, we also get to see a lot of like characters going through guilt. We see a lot of characters in season 3, how they react to things they do in like the hero life and like how that affects them personally, especially as much as this character makes me angry. Black Lightning. There are season 3 was really good. I enjoyed it. Like the plot was cool. It set up for an interesting season 4, a really cool like final battle with Darkseid kind of thing. But some of the characters got really self-righteous. Like Black Lightning got really self-righteous. Brion Markov, for the most part, was really self-righteous. And like they didn't do that to a lot of the older characters that had been through season 1, season 2, season 3. Like
I feel like a lot of the older characters in season 3 that were in season 1 and 2, but in season 3 they kind of took a backseat to
Right.
a lot of the new people that they introduced.
Cyborg, they introduced Cyborg, and I liked Cyborg in this show. That was cool. But I think what they do a lot of in this show is they tried to, in season 3 at least, they tried to fast track character development of like 12 characters.
Yeah.
And some of it worked really well. Like some of it was great, some of it was very well timed. Some of it didn't, I don't think, which I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to be convincing you to watch this show, but it's still
it's
still
fine.
a spectacular show.
Go on.
Yeah, some of it just seemed a little rushed and a little like, I don't know how we got to this point. Because like when we were watching it together, we finished episode 23, and I was like, great, the next 3 are getting released together next week.
Yeah.
Also, how are they going to tie this up? Because there were just so many loose ends, and they tied up a lot of them, and they left just enough to like open us up for season 4. Also, they introduced the Legion flight ring at the end of like the very last frame of season 3. They introduced the Legion of Superheroes, which is basically like the teenage Justice League of the 31st century. Which is really cool. So I
don't remember that.
It's when they were getting coffee. The blonde girl with the ring. That's probably most definitely Saturn Girl. I'm
gonna nod and pretend like I know what you're talking about.
Only like one blonde character in the Legion of Superheroes, and it's Saturn Girl.
There's only one blonde character in all of comics. Okay, so we're talking about.
And it's me. But no, I think what would be interesting if that's how they introduce Supergirl into the show, because in the comics, Supergirl gets transported to the future, falls in love with Brainiac 5, who is like Brainiac's descendant because he found out how to replicate his DNA organically, which means he grew a cock, and then. I'm kidding. That's not what it means. But I thought it would be
okay, I was about to say, like, that doesn't sound right.
But he's, like, hot, alive Brainiac. Who, in the Legion of Superheroes animated show in 2006, is definitely gay for Superman. Like, watch that show. They're definitely gay for each other.
Okay, so...
But she basically, like, decides to stay in the future with him, and I wonder if she comes back for any reason with the Legion of Superheroes, and that's how we meet her.
So we're talking a lot about the different seasons. So let's get back to, like, you've mentioned before that season 1 is all about secrets, and we don't really know these characters. We're still learning them, at least these versions of them.
Right.
So some of them are hiding different things. Some of them have, hidden dark sides. And, they resolve that or they don't resolve that, blah, 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 blah. What is season 2 about? Not thesis, but like what's the story, what's the arc for everyone or the whole season?
They call it Young Justice Invasion. That's where they introduce a lot of the importance of public opinion. Season 2 is really where they start worrying about what the world thinks of them, how that plays out on like a global scale, on an international scale, on a universal scale, interstellar scale, intergalactic scale, because of some things that happened in the end of season 1. Which you don't know about because you haven't watched it, but you will.
So season 1's about secrets.
Yeah, season 2 has a lot to do with public opinion, and they're going through like still keeping secrets from people because secrets are a common show, like are a theme in the entire show.
What's season 3 about?
Season 3.
And how does that tie to season 1 and 2?
That one's a lot about identity. So like there are breaks between the seasons. Like between season 1 and 2 there's 5 years, and then 2 and 3 there's 2 years. Season 3 has a lot to do with identity and growth for the newer characters, and for the older characters it has a lot to do with like relationships and seriously what do I want to do with the future of my life, because they're getting older, and by older I mean mid-20s.
Shit, man.
Which is old for a young superhero.
Which is, yeah. I mean, like, it's funny because, like, you made it this far and you're not dead yet. Congratulations.
Right.
Do I start a family now?
Right. Like,
should I start a family?
Like, am I about to be Jason Todd, or am I gonna, like, Batman the shit out of this? Like, am I gonna Bruce Wayne the shit out of this?
Both are, actually, if you think about it, both are very sad. Because you either die young and then also come back and then be really bitter, or you be a bitter old man who keeps indoctrinating children into this life of crime fighting.
Yeah.
So being a superhero sucks.
Right. Unless you're Wonder Woman, then it's kind of iconic for her, because the Amazons just always remain iconic, and they're immortal. So if anytime she wants to like not be here, she's like, you know what, I'm just gonna like pop back with the mascara and like live for a few more 1,000 years, and then when things get better, I'm gonna come back out, live my life, relearn about the man's world, which they already learn about because they somehow have like they learn about the man's world on Themyscira.
So, season 1 is secrets. Season 2 is about public opinion.
That's the one of the major plots.
Season 3 is about identity. And we do see some of that.
We see a lot of divergent identities, which are really cool.
We see a lot of identity politics, snowflakes.
Right. They give they make one of the older characters from season 1 like canon bisexual in season 3, which is really cool because we get to see that hashtag bi pride.
Hell yeah, bi pride. Fuck yeah, you know me.
Yep.
You know me, bi pride.
Right.
So you got into it's not just Young Justice that you're into. You're into DC.
Right.
And I want to ask this question, and it might this might start a fight. This might start an internet fight, but you know what? I'm gonna do it.
It's going to start an internet fight. I think I know what question you're asking.
So why do you like DC more than Marvel?
DC, as far as like comics, like characters and origin stories, the characters see a lot more development. DC Comics tend to go on the slightly darker side. We really get to see a lot more of like what the characters are thinking, how they grow emotionally, and like how the events change them as characters, and not just like how superheroes react when someone's invading the world. Because like we get to see that cool stuff, but we also get to see like the example I'm going to use is the Blackest Night continuity. The Blackest Night is basically the living embodiment of death in the universe, develops a power battery and amplifies the power of death, and like goes to the home worlds of all of the Lantern Corps and Earth, because that's where the like apparently life in the universe started in DC Comics, and that's where like the entity, which is like the thing that started life, is like still hiding. He basically raises a bunch of dead people and like tries to snuff out life from the universe. And through every step of the way, we don't just see like, how are we going to beat him? We see characters like how their emotional response to this is, and we see how different people cope with different levels of stress and different levels of trauma, and how they get through it as a team. So it makes a lot of the stories and the motivations in comics make more sense. And because of that attention to character and attention to how characters like grow and develop in DC Comics, the team-ups are more believable and more interesting, and the continuities are just better, in my opinion. Same thing with the animated shows and movies. I'll give the cinematic universe to Marvel.
Yeah, they definitely own...
Because
they own the market.
Right.
And not just because Disney literally owns 35% of the market.
It's not because it's because their financial sponsor is the mouse. Because they're sponsored by the mouse, they have the money to make like the best movies visually. But they also have excellent writers. When you look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe against the DC Extended Universe, the characters in the DC Extended Universe, which is like live action, like Batman versus Superman kind of things, are not written well.
Well, what I think, and this is, a lot of people have stated this before, this idea is not original to me, but what I think is DC is essentially playing catch up, because Marvel,
100%.
Yeah, Marvel has been doing this for the long con. Even before they were bought up by Disney, they were trying to set up this cinematic universe.
Right.
And so DC has to play a game of catch up. So that's why Batman versus Superman was so heavy and dense with all these different plot points, trying to set up, Wonder Woman's backstory, create a new Batman, be a sequel to the Superman movie, introduce this new, essentially...
Well, they tried to do the same thing in Justice League, too.
Yeah, two different villains, essentially. It was just too much.
It would be like if Marvel had tried to put... If they'd done if they'd done the first Captain America, and then they tried to put Iron Man, Thor, and the first Avengers movie all in the same film. Mm-hmm. That's what Justice League was for me.
Yeah, and it was directed by Zack Snyder, right? And I don't like what Zack Snyder...
Batfleck was terrible. Let's just talk about Ben Affleck as Batman was just awful.
A lot of the choices that Snyder did with the directing, it was not great either.
He did Justice League too.
And there was a lot of, I believe there was a lot of studio interference with Justice League, because they were trying to be like, we're trying to be cool and funny, and we actually have to lighten up this movie. And by lighten up...
Well, I don't think they would have tried to lighten it up if Ragnarok had not been so light.
Well, what I meant is, light with comedy and also light in the lighting of the movie itself.
Both ended up being very dark. I was in the movie theater squinting, trying to see what was going on in the film.
Yeah. But like, this is, again, it's not original to us. There are many people having these conversations.
Right.
About like, Marvel basically just beating the game when it comes to the cinematic universe.
Because they are, and they're doing very well.
But personally, I know that there are different Marvel, because Disney has their kids shows on their channel, and as a person who watches just a shit ton of kids shows, I see commercials for different things. So I know that there is like an Avengers animated show, like several different Spider-Man animated shows.
I've watched a lot of them. Most of them aren't that great. The last really good animated show that Marvel did, in the mid-2000s, they did X-Men Evolution. The X-Men are easily the best part of the Marvel universe. Easily.
And it's so funny because I don't know, because they're now going to be a part of it.
Because the X-Men have really good characters.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so like I grew up watching X-Men Evolution, which I loved. I fucking loved that show.
I enjoyed that.
And I remember I was watching it and I recorded an episode or something, and I accidentally recorded the 90s version of the show. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
And then that's how I got into that show, because I was confused.
That's the last time Jubilee was ever a main character in anything.
Mm-hmm. But
Jubilee, by the way, is a Marvel Comics character, a mutant who has the power to... Her superpower is to create fireworks, so she can shoot fireworks out of her hands.
It's fun.
That's it.
It's fun. But for me personally, I feel like DC has really killed the game with animated series.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially, throughout the 90s and the 2000s, all the different versions of things.
They also kill the game with their video games.
Really?
Particularly the Arkham, like the Batman ones, the Arkham series, spectacular.
Mm-hmm. I've only seen like a few Let's Plays and walkthroughs of those.
I've watched the stories for Arkham Asylum and Arkham Knight, and I've played Arkham City. And just the story and their use of those characters, truly exceptional.
Mm-hmm. But like, a lot of people are like, DC versus Marvel. I mean, listen, they are both two huge companies that are making bank,
right? And
they're using their competitive edge against each other as a marketing ploy,
right?
So if you choose a side,
if you look back at all of like the comics, a lot of them a lot of the writers crossed over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like Stan Lee at the beginning of his career wrote for DC for some stuff.
I believe it.
There was a heavy amount of crossover.
I personally hate it when people pin two companies against each other and say this one's better than this one, because like you have brand loyalty to an entity that is, by the the legal standard, the government has said like, yeah, a company, a corporation is a person, but they are not a person. They're a conglomeration, right? And they're just milking you for all their work.
And they don't give a shit about you.
They don't give a shit about you. And it's really funny because
the only reason they claim to give a shit about you is because if you don't give a shit about them, they don't get your money.
And a big thing about that is like, a lot of people are brand loyalty, and they will pin their fans against each other, which is also very funny because like there was that whole thing on like Rotten Tomatoes when people were like, everyone's hating this Batman movie, the Justice League movie, because they were paid off by Marvel.
No, it was terrible.
I mean, like, Disney has a lot of money, but I don't think they would use it to pay off critics to hate, a not great movie that is Batman v Superman, which is, it's not even that great. My point to that is, like, enjoy both things, but do know that, like, these companies essentially don't care about your opinion of them, as long as that they get your money, which they will get your money,
right?
But I do enjoy their media. God damn it, I am trapped in this.
Right, me too.
But I think it is an important topic because, as we're talking about Young Justice, but we're more talking about DC. So that brings me, we talked about the characters. You have peppered in the fact that there are possibly queer characters in the world of Young Justice, and there are
definitely queer characters in season 3.
Yes, but we're not going to say who or what or when. I mean, you probably have seen it. Who cares? But one thing that has been stated before for me is like how I get into media. Someone will say like, "Hey, watch this thing." I'm like, "Okay, sure," and they're like, "There's queer people in it." I'm like, "I gotta watch it."
Yeah.
And then I'm sorely disappointed because there is barely any of it. It's like it's either queer baited or it's like they hold hands. I'm like, that's cute, but also like, can I have some acknowledgement of the queerness? So, but the thing is,
they kiss once and then they have one conversation about gender identity and that's about it.
We've made so many strides. Gay rights.
Right. There's
queer
a bunch
rights.
of straight people though.
Yeah, unfortunately. But yeah, so I feel like, we are two queer people and we enjoy this. And I think that superheroes are inherently queer. Just because there's this,
Oh, watching the old animated series, the way, like...
Which one?
All of them. Everything made in, like, the 90s, the way, like, male superheroes banter with each other, I'm like, you cannot tell me that they're not gonna go bone. That Superman is not about to go break Batman's pelvis. Like, come on.
And it's not even a sexual thing. It's more of, like, a metaphorical, what is a superhero, but someone who is hiding their identity, this secret dark thing that they don't want anyone to know, or they'll be ostracized by their loved ones and their family.
Right.
And I feel like there is, being a queer person and you see that, you may not know it, but you kind of relate to that. If you're not out, or if you don't really know what you are, you relate to that. Mm-hmm. So I do see a lot of like people, gay, queer, trans, or anyone of the queer persuasion relate to superheroes a lot.
That's why so many queers do cosplay.
Yeah, also like cosplay's fun. So it's funny that a lot of the times, the queer people that watch these shows and they're looking for there's the subtextual, the metaphorical queerness to these superheroes, but we don't see any like textual queerness. I mean, we do, but it's rare and far in between. Like
the subtextual queerness between Tim Drake and Connor Kent.
Yeah, which we talked about.
Which I want to be canonical, but...
And it's really...
I mean, they need to at least make one of the Robins some kind of queer. Like, how many have there been? 5? 6 if you count Duke Thomas?
God, I don't know.
Dick Grayson, canon straight. Jason Todd, don't think he's had any relationships with anybody. Tim Drake, they try to put him... He and Stephanie Brown have this thing. It's like not really a thing, but it's kind of a thing. And they haven't made him canon with Connor. Stephanie Brown kind of has a thing with Tim Drake. Mm-hmm. And then Damian Wayne, who is like 12, please don't make him canonically sexual with anybody.
Yeah, please don't.
Or if you could have him grow up and be asexual, that would be cool, and I think that would work with his character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there is, in fandom...
Actually, in the Hush comics, Damian Wayne was like driving this girl around in the Batmobile. And Batman was like, alright, dumbass, ejected her. And then she got eaten by the Killer Croc.
What the fuck is comics? Honestly?
I have that one on my shelf. The Batman Hush comic book storyline is also one of the best Batman storylines of all time.
So, again, one thing that I see in fandom culture a lot, especially with queer fans, is that they see...
Right, smut. Sorry.
Well, no. But what they do is they see a character and they basically they watch this character and they see how they act and they relate to them because they act similar. And so what they do is they kind of not imprint, but they're basically like they take that character and either headcanon or just say like, yeah, that character's gay, that character's trans, that character's bi. And it's one of my favorite things because when someone is lacking representation, fans will go out and make it for themselves. And they will take canon and they will basically twist it into something that fits themselves. And sometimes that's a bad thing, but most of the times I usually see it as, a young person who desperately wants this character that they love and that they relate to be queer. Or a lot of the times you may see a character who is usually more light-skinned, and you'll see a creator of color who, darkens or tans their skin or make them have darker eyes.
And you know what I'm thinking? Okay, I was thinking about this in the shower a couple days ago. A lot of people don't like. There's this. I see this on the internet sometimes. Like how people can't make Superman black. I'm like, wait a minute. Why can't we make Superman black? Like, just because what I think the problem is people get in their head like once a character is redone in some way, it can't be like unredone.
That's
like,
the thing.
Like just because if there's a version where Superman is black, which would be iconic, no one is saying another version of Superman cannot be like the older, like the white Superman that we all know, like that.
Which is very dumb, because in comics you see many versions, because like it's canon that, you know, there's multiple universes, there's like a dark Superman, and then there's also like a Superman that was raised in Mexico, I think.
There's a Superman that was raised in Russia.
Yes. Red Star.
Red Sun.
Yeah, Red Sun. And so like, but as soon as like, you know,
he's not a white person.
He gets some melanin, or he's like different race that everyone's up in arms, or gay or something.
I know you're talking about the one who was raised in Mexico, or was raised in the South by Mexican immigrants.
Yes, I think so.
It's in Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, that's also the one where Batman is an actual bat.
Actual vampire.
He's
Dr. Kurt Langstrom, who in the regular universe is.
Yeah, so like they'll believe that. People will like, and I'm gonna say this. Like, fanboys will believe, like, oh, here's a Batman who's actually a vampire.
Right.
But, like, again...
But Black Superman is so
Black
hard
Superman?
to... No,
can't have that. Can't have that.
I just think
Not believable. Not believable at all.
I think that... I don't understand what the problem is. I truly don't.
Oh, we know.
It's like, just because, like, the people flipped out about Halle Bailey being cast as Ariel. Mm-hmm. It's like, that doesn't mean every Ariel on Broadway or on tour from here on out is, like... has to be cast as a black person. I don't even think it's about like we have to give something to minorities.
Yeah.
Which is what causes a lot of the problems, because people look at it and they're like, we can't give them Superman. Like, we want to keep, like, why don't we just cast Superman as someone who's Superman? Mm-hmm. And like, if that actor who is really good at playing Superman happens to be black, let's do it. And then when we're casting another Superman show, if the best actor for Superman happens to be an Asian male, let's do it. Mm-hmm. If the best actor for Superman is this white actor.
Yeah, because I feel like comics especially you can have multiple different storylines and not have them relate. Like this new Joker movie. This is not the canon Joker for, you know, the DC universe that's going on right now.
Honestly, thank God.
This is a different Joker. It's parallel to this story with like Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, and they understand that. So why can't they have another movie somewhere that is parallel to all the other movies and cast a different person? And right. But it's so, and we know the reason. It's racism. It's homophobia. It's transphobia.
Right.
Obviously.
Well, I really, and it still baffles me how people, like, in DC Comics continuity, in the Rebirth continuity, people can get behind the idea of there canonically being two Wally Wests existing at the same time in the same universe who are first cousins.
Yeah, sure.
And one of them is a mixed race presenting black person, and the other one is like the ginger white Wally West that we know. But they both exist at the same time, and they both have the Kid Flash powers. That is not hard to believe, but Black Superman is so hard to believe.
I mean, and also, I think it would make sense, because you see this, there's also this argument about, like, Superman, you know, how he takes his powers from the sun, and then Starfire takes her powers from the sun.
Right.
So oh my god, that's like full circle. It brings me back to Momo in My Hero Academia, where she has to wear this scantily outfit because it goes with her powers, and we see that with Starfire.
Elastigirl doesn't have to wear a scantily outfit.
No, but like
I know, but like Elastigirl can mold her body and her body fat. And
no, but like Starfire has to wear these scantily clad outfits because her skin needs to be in contact.
I don't see Superman with a thong.
Yeah,
so
So Starfire, you know, she's wearing this scantily clad outfit because it's her, you know, it's how she gets her power. She uses the sun, but so does Superman.
Well,
but Superman's wearing a full fucking suit.
They already introduced in like comic canon like years ago that like Superman and like when Superboy was being grown in the beginning of Young Justice, he was wearing a solar suit, absorb and enhance solar rays.
Mm-hmm. So like, wouldn't it make more sense if, you know, Superman had, you know, just a little more skin tone, a little more melanin would, because he takes his power from the sun. I mean, that makes total sense in continuity. It's it's racism. It's homophobia, obviously.
And because of racism, we're not going to see a black Superman anytime soon.
Hopefully not now, but maybe down the line. That would be nice, you know? And like there's the excuse like, oh, there's already black superheroes. Like,
doesn't matter. If you really have that much of a problem with Kal-El being a black person, kill Kal-El and have new Superman be a black person. It's like people didn't want to like change the race of white Green Lantern, so they were like, you know what? Let's just add another Green Lantern, and it was great. It was a great character.
And it's comics, so it makes sense in the continuity because like everyone's dying always.
Or like have Black Superman come over from a parallel universe and just like be Black Superman with White Superman and both be Superman in the same universe, because it happened with Wally West and everyone was okay with that. We really did head off on a tangent here.
Yeah, but I think it's an important tangent. But yeah, so like we see these people, fans. We see fans who are lacking in representation, and then they create this representation with the media that they love. And that's like one of my favorite
I think that's really cool.
That's one of my favorite things.
Like I really like seeing, sometimes on Facebook I'll see like gender swap art, and I think that's really cool.
I'm always a little bit hesitant about gender swap art because they
definitely hypersexualize it. But.
Yeah, and also like it's the cis person's idea of what gender swapping is. So I'm always a little hesitant about it.
Right.
I'll see it and I'll like, hey, that's kind of cool. But it's always like in the back of my mind, I'll be like, but what do they mean by that?
Right, yeah.
But that also does bring up the idea of like someone saying like, well, why can't I take this canonically person of color and make them white? Well, honey, that's called that. No.
Because that's not how representation works, because there's already a lot. Okay, the problem is black characters that have representation only have representation because a lot of them, because their character is like relies on them being black. Like a lot of representation throughout the years of media that people of color have gotten and queer people have gotten have been like, this character is not the same character, or like this character's story doesn't have meaning if they were like a different race or like a different sexuality. I think it's important, and they do this in season 3 of Young Justice, that we show characters and superheroes of different ethnicities, of different sexualities, being superheroes, and like their story of like being about what's going on in like their superhero life and like how they're coping with superheroes life and stuff like that. That is not immediately revolving around their like sexuality. Like I would love to see a character be like, I'm having this dilemma in combat and in being a superhero because of my moral obligation not to kill another human being or not to kill another living being. Also, I'm going to go confide in my boyfriend, not like, oh, I don't know if I can fight crime today because I have a crush on this dude, but I can't tell him and I can't come out and my mom's not going to, I don't, like,
yeah.
I want to see a casually gay character, and I want to see, like, a character that is, like, casually not white. That not everyone's like, you really think you can fight crime with that much melanin? Like, I don't know. I just...
See, I do like it. I do like a little bit of both, because I think you need the acknowledgement, like...
Right, it's important, but I don't want it to be like...
You don't want to see it like
a lot of queer characters that we see are like, they come to terms with their sexuality, and then they either leave or die. Like,
you're right,
that's what we see.
Yeah.
And then like...
Yeah, because there's so many like coming out stories. Or there's so many, like, this person of color has to teach this white racist to not be racist. And now they're friends.
Right. Because he goes from being a main character for 3 episodes to being a major supporting character that's going to come back twice later in the season. Like, I want... So
there should be a good balance between things like that.
Right.
Like a character is multifaceted. They're not just one thing. There's not just one, they're just... This is the gay character and that's their thing.
Right. I'm tired of seeing token characters.
Yeah.
Which is still happening.
Yeah.
It's getting better.
Oh, especially in comics too.
Especially in comics, it's getting better. I like what they're doing in comics because they're taking who they designed as token characters and they're giving them arcs and dimension, which as much as I don't like Black Lightning in season 3, he gets an arc and he gets dimension, and it makes him an interesting character.
Oh, I'm always such a slut for character development. I love a good arc. I love a good character learning their ways and becoming a better person. Mwah! Chef kiss.
Becoming a better person, or I like seeing people go downhill too, because we do see some of that in Young Justice season 3.
You see some angst, yeah.
We see people go through trials and tribulations and ultimately not grow, but like regress or like grow in the wrong direction, like an ingrown toenail. It's really cool when we get to see that.
And I just wanted to have a disclaimer. We are both.
Right, we are both Caucasian people.
We are both 2 Caucasian people. We are queer, but we're not saying like, oh, we know the struggles of people of color.
Right, we really don't. We understand the struggle of queer representation.
Yeah.
Because that's something we deal with every day. But personally, I've met people who have experienced representation issues because of race. Mm-hmm. But personally, I've never experienced.
And then also there is like the intersection of queer people of color as well.
Right, which have it infinitely harder than...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but yeah, I do think it's an important topic to talk about, especially in fandom, because we see a lot of it, and some people don't, do it right, and you need to acknowledge some of these things, and some people get so... Because they attach... a part of themselves to this character. Mm-hmm. So they have this deep devotion to this character. And if someone like slightly changes them, they're like, that's a personal attack against them. And that's sort of a double-edged sword. Because like I do that with a lot of characters too. And when I see someone doing that character, at least to my mind, doing that character dirty, I'm like, hey, what the fuck?
Right.
What the fuck did you do? That's not how it is.
Right.
But again, I do love it when a fan like sees something in this character and they're like, I relate to this character. They're like me, so I'm going to say like, that's a queer, or that person has ADHD. I see a lot of that too sometimes. Mm. Or they're on the autism spectrum, yeah. The autism spectrum, yeah.
ADHD, probably Kid Flash, probably Beast Boy.
Such a stupid, because Kid Flash is literally like fast talking bitch.
I could see Tim Drake being on the autism spectrum.
And that's such a thing, because like I think it's so great.
I could see Tim Drake being queer with Superboy too.
And I just love it so much when underrepresented fans see a character and just take it for themselves and be like, this is mine now. And
right.
like, this is for all of us. And it just brings a little joy to my heart.
Like with what the gays did with Li Shang.
He's bi, damn it.
Although truly, he was attracted to Ping and Mulan, so like truly canon bisexual.
Like, he's us. He's one of us.
They're not going to admit it for a while, but also this has nothing to do with DC, disclaimer. But I want my gay Disney princes, or like my trans woman Disney princess who hasn't transitioned yet.
There's,
like my male princess.
Again, that brings back to our conversation about corporations, especially Disney. They're not going to do it until they find it profitable.
Right. And it's not yet.
Yeah, they can't.
Which sucks.
Yeah, so this is my last episode was also kind of a bit of a tangent series as well, but I do hope that all 3 of my listeners have kept up with this, and we have ranted, and I've tried to keep it on the train of Young Justice, DC.
Well, we come back to it.
We always try to
loop back.
We always try to loop back to it. So this brings me to the thesis of this episode and every episode. Should I and the viewers, the listeners, get into it?
Oh yeah. Do I have to answer that?
Yes.
Oh yeah, you should get into it for all the reasons I've said. It explores different facets of young characters' lives, how they grow. We had to see a 7-year growth period for a lot of these characters, and how they go from being the mentees to being the mentors, how they evolve in their personal life and their personal philosophies. It's just a show full of everything we love about superheroes, everything we love about espionage, and stock full of interesting characters. Even on the villain side, the light is full of interesting characters. Definitely watch it. Definitely check it out. I know you can watch it on the DC Universe streaming service.
If you don't want to pay money, there are ways to watch it. Because I watch, shit ton of anime or cartoons and movies through the
Crunchyroll.
this episode is sponsored by Crunchy.
No.
You gotta pay money for that. No,
Really?
yes, if you want a subscription. But I usually go to watch cartoons online. Don't go to Kiss Cartoon. That is an open invitation to a computer virus. You may need to see. You might have to see some anime girl titties, like advertisements on the sides, but it's kind of worth it in a way.
When watching free things online, that's always something you have to watch out for.
Anime girl titties.
Right.
You gotta watch out. They're because they're so big, they're gonna get you.
Right, because they'll come at you. They'll suffocate you.
You'll never see them coming.
You'll never. No, you will. No, you get
Their physics doesn't make sense.
You get a couple miles in advance. Yeah. Oh, those poor women's backs.
God, their backs.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't. I literally can't.
Neither can I. I don't even I barely have any pec muscles, and when I run, sometimes it moves up and down, and I'm like, oh my god.
Owie.
How do even women with A cups do this? I don't understand. Anyway.
So yeah, I mean, I also have watched the series. It's interesting in a way. I talked about how I kind of got in. I kind of flowed in and out of the series itself. But it is interesting. If you liked Teen Titans, you might like this series too. It does explore darker themes and dwells into the interpersonal lives of superheroes.
Right.
Though Teen Titans, was more kid friendly and also sort of influenced by anime.
Right, but this is an NSFW podcast, so we're not broadcasting to kids.
I mean, a kid might listen. Hi, kid. Are you one of my 3 listeners? But yeah, I enjoyed the series, and I also like characters. I love characters.
Oh yeah.
Are there any fan stuff you want to shout out? Fan fiction, fan art, recap people? No? Okay. Usually I have my friends, my other guests have a whole bunch. So if that's fine.
I don't read fan fiction. The only fan fiction I ever used to really read was Percy Jackson, Jason Grace fan fiction. But no, I also don't look at fan art a lot.
Okay, that's fine. If there's none for that, that's fine. Do you have any other last minute shout outs? Any things you want to plug?
Again, my Instagram is at chrisbrownwho2398. And I'll launch my professional account from there.
Yeah. Again, I wanted to have a disclaimer because we are 2 white people and we're not going to pretend like we know the trials and tribulations of a person of color.
But we will pretend like we know the trials and tribulations of queer people because we are both queer people and we do understand those trials and tribulations.
Yeah. I hope all 3 of you have had a good time trying to navigate a mess of an episode. I'm sorry if the edits are weird.
Oh, shut the fuck up, Olivia. This isn't a mess. This is art.
But
I'm giving you brilliant material. Brilliant!
Thank you again for being on the show. I love you.
No problem. I love you.
Stop! We can't have a fucking breakdown.
I know, so don't compliment me.
Oh my god. Thank you guys again for listening to FandotDomdotcom. And remember, fans are always on top.
The only time for me.